No pressure thing for me. No go some man. We don't like homosexuals in Jamaica. And I'm gonna get this straight for you. Please don't get it twisted.
Sizzla is known for speaking his mind, but now he has opened up like never before, revealing the 9 reggae artists he's hated the most throughout his career. From heated rivalries to deep personal grudges, this is a rare glimpse into the tensions behind reggae's biggest names. Whether you're a hardcore reggae fan or just curious about the drama in the scene, you're about to hear some unexpected confessions that shake up the culture. Stay tuned as we dive into Sizzla's boldest revelations and uncover what really went down. Number 9. Fantan Moja. Reggae star Sizzla Kalonji always speaks his mind whenever he sees problems that need attention. In 2001, he openly criticized some fellow Rastafarian artists because he believed they were not following the right path. During an Instagram Live, the Mash Dem Down singer spoke out against individuals who claim to be Rastafarian, but live in ways that contradict the movement's values. Although he did not specify exactly who he was referring to, fans believe he might be talking about dancehall and reggae artist Fantan Moja. Sizzla was enjoying some music, including new songs from his album Million Times. As he spoke from his Judgment Yard base in Augusttown, he said, "It have some people way have locks and a wear turban and black to uno, and them do some things what make them set a people day way a foundation." People disgruntled after pausing the music. He also assured fans that his fire wasn't done, even though he had been away from performing on the road. Fantan Moja faced intense criticism after he released a raunchy video for his song Fire King. Dub poet and ERIE-FM radio broadcaster Mutabaruka spoke out, saying the video did not follow the principles of the Rastafarian Bobo Ashanti order. In response, Moja fired back with some heated comments aimed at Muta. He also said that his song had the support of Rastafarian elder Earl Chinna Smith. While defending himself in an interview, Moja said there is nothing wrong with being a Rastafarian and living a glamorous life. He explained, "Look pon it this way. Rasta must clean. You must have on nice clothes. Good clothes and nice tings. Rasta must look good. Sur who a try dis stuck up ting and dis one bag of cloth ting me nuch inna it. Me nuch inna it with dem enu." But Fantan's views are not shared by Sizzla. Sizzla urged artists to stop portraying the wrong kind of lifestyle while still identifying as Rastafarians. In his hour-long live video, Sizzla said, "You sayin' suffer and you never corrupt. You did clean. Everything a gwan good. You just no have no money, no big house, and no pretty car. Your reputation is well. And now, as you get richer, do you get corrupt, dirty, and nasty? Why ya do?" He also issued a severe warning to the unnamed artists. He said, "You see some uno artist way hadu, the lickle sum de way nu acceptable by the Jamaican nation. Uno cut it out eno. That's not Jamaican eno." At the same time, one fan disagreed with Sizzla's message and pointed to some of Sizzla's own popular songs. The fan said, "Sizzla can't school no one about Rasta. Him come a talk about big long gun and pump up her pum pum. Not that pump up her pum pum is a bad thing. I am all about Rasta stay Rasta, and no advertise dem curiosity." Number 8. DJ Khaled. Although Khaled is popularly known as a hip-hop producer, he has collaborated with many artists across various genres, including reggae. One of such artists is Sizzla. In a video from December 2022, Sizzla surprised many viewers when he destroyed 2 platinum RIAA frame certification plaques for his work on DJ Khaled's albums Grateful and Father of Assad. In the video, Sizzla tells an associate who is holding a knife to cut out the baby's picture, the children are innocent. DJ Khaled's son Assad is pictured on both album covers. Sizzla carefully places the photos of Assad on a higher surface. Then, the plaques are broken into several pieces. The pieces are stacked on the ground, soaked with lighter fluid or gasoline, and set on fire. Throughout, Sizzla can be heard saying, "You insult me, DJ Khaled." At the time, Sizzla did not explain why he destroyed the plaques. Later, his engineer and producer, McConan Blake Hanna, explained that it was a protest against the incorrect spelling of Sizzla's real name, Miguel Collin. He said that DJ Khaled was aware of the mistake but never corrected it. McConan added, "That is a discrepancy right there. You cannot collect your royalties if your name is not spelled correctly." In a 2025 interview with the Fix podcast, Sizzla said he destroyed the plaques because the font size showing his name was too small. He said, "Put my name big like yours. He should have known that." Number 7. Norris Man. On August 6th, 2007, a major event called St. Mary Me Come From took place. This annual show, hosted by Capleton since the year 2000, was created to raise funds for charitable causes in his home parish of St. Mary. That year's edition had a lineup full of energy, with exciting performances from artists like Capleton himself and Fantan Moja. They opened the show spectacularly, getting the crowd hyped and full of energy. But like many big concerts featuring several high-profile acts, the show ran into problems with timing and scheduling. Performers ended up going on stage much later than planned, some waiting many minutes or even hours past their original time slot. This delay ultimately became the catalyst for the ensuing chaos. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, Sizzla finally came on stage to deliver his set. In classic Sizzla style, he had the audience fired up, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. But behind the scenes, another artist, Norris Man, was getting frustrated. He had been waiting far longer than expected for his turn to perform, and was clearly upset. In a strange and unexpected twist, Norris Man suddenly broke protocol. While Sizzla and Lady Saw were performing together, he stormed onto the stage without warning. Now, it's not unusual for artists who are friends to join each other during performances. But this was different. Norris Man came on aggressively, shouting into the microphone and swearing loudly. Although his words weren't directly aimed at anyone in particular, the way he interrupted the performance came off as rude and chaotic, catching everyone off guard. After Norris Man told the selector to play his rhythm, he began performing a track called Big Long Gone. The song had some very aggressive lyrics, and you could tell it started getting under Sizzla's skin. Sizzla began speaking directly to him, and soon the two started exchanging words. Then Sizzla told him to get off his stage. As the tension grew, members of the Bobo Ashanti Rasta family, of which Sizzla is a part, began to show visible agitation. And if you know anything about the Bobo Ashanti Rastas, you already know they don't play around. They can get very aggressive, especially when they feel disrespected. That's when Norris Man commented on Sizzla's mother. That was the last straw. The Bobo Ashanti crew rushed the stage, surrounded Norris Man, and started to manhandle him. Capleton ran in quickly to break things up, and Sizzla stood to the side, but he told his people to leave Norris Man alone. That was the end of the performance. Sizzla walked off, and security removed Norris Man from the stage. Right after that, Jah Cure took the stage and delivered a beautiful performance that helped calm the crowd and revive the show's energy. But by the next day, the story had already spread across Jamaica. The word was that Sizzla's crew had jumped Norris Man and boxed him off the stage because of what he said about Sizzla's mother. Norris Man clearly crossed the line, and a few days later, he apologized to Sizzla. That put an end to the beef, at least at the time. Over the years, people slowly forgot about it. 17 years passed, and then in 2024, Sizzla brought it back up during an interview on a podcast called The Nightly Fix. The host asked him about the situation with Norris Man from that night all those years ago. In his response, Sizzla said he didn't support the fact that Norris Man got beaten, but he also made it clear that he saw Norris Man's decision to jump on stage as a bold and intentional act of disrespect. When I watched the interview, I felt like Sizzla kept his cool. His tone was calm, but it had a sarcastic and humorous edge. That interview brought the whole situation back to life. Within a few weeks, it started trending again, right before Norris Man was scheduled to perform at Reggae Songfest. Recently, Norris Man appeared on a highly popular and influential radio show called The Entertainment Report Podcast. During the conversation, he finally opened up about what happened with Sizzla. He shared that there had always been some unspoken tension and rivalry between the two of them. That tension apparently went all the way back to the late 1990s, when they were both up-and-coming fireburn artists and part of the Rasta Renaissance movement. Number 6. Luciano. By the mid-1990s, Exterminator Records had become the most powerful musical force in Jamaica. It was a literal Rasta army of incredible singers, musicians, instrumentalists, and producers, all led by the legendary Philip Faddis Burrell, who many consider the most crucial producer of reggae's digital era. At that time, Exterminator's roster included legendary names like Gregory Isaacs and Beres Hammond. However, the label also served as the launchpad for two future icons, Luciano and Sizzla. Still, it was Luciano's breakout success that first put Exterminator on the global map in the early 1990s. Luciano's music stood out because of its uplifting, spiritually charged messages. His smooth, rich, and powerful vocals won over the global reggae community. He was simply unstoppable. His Rastafarian beliefs were deeply woven into his lyrics, which made him the face of a growing Rastafarian renaissance. That movement aimed to steer reggae music back to its spiritual roots after it took a detour into slackness during the 1980s. Building on Luciano's momentum, Vybz Kartel assembled a team of young, talented artists at Exterminator, with Luciano serving as the mentor and leading voice. But over time, things started to shift. A series of unfortunate events created tension between Luciano and the newer generation, led by a young and fiery Sizzla. Those tensions eventually led to Luciano's departure from the label before the end of the decade. People have known for years that Luciano left Exterminator right around the same time Sizzla's star was rising fast. However, few have ever truly understood why. Many chalked it up to jealousy on Luciano's part, but the whole story has always remained a bit of a mystery. But in recent times, Luciano has finally opened up about what really happened. A few years after launching the Vina label, which focused on dancehall artists such as Sanchez, Dirtsman, and Daddy Freddy, Vybz Kartel began undergoing a spiritual transformation. He leaned heavily into his new Rastafarian faith, and that shift inspired him to start making music with a strong spiritual foundation and message. In 1989, he launched a new label called Exterminator Records. The name was a code word for what he planned to do to Babylon: exterminate slackness from the airwaves and dance floors and fill them instead with conscious, uplifting music in the name of Jah Rastafari. Over the next few years, Vybz collaborated with notable artists such as Barris Hammond, Ninja Man, and Ini Kamoze. But by the early 90s, he wanted to focus on building a new generation of artists who could truly represent his spiritual vision. Inspired by the film Malcolm X, he rebranded the label, dropped the E from Exterminator, and brought in Jamaica's legendary saxophonist Dean Frazier as music arranger and director. That was in 1992. Around that same time, Luciano, who was still known as Jepter McClymont or just Singy on the sound system circuit, was hustling hard to get into the record business. When he heard about what Vybz was building, he auditioned for Exterminator. After just one song, he got signed. His debut album Moving Up dropped in 1993, and by the end of 1994, he had released 4 full albums. That run cemented him as one of Jamaica's hottest new artists. But everything changed in 1995 when Messenger hit the streets. That album was a global smash and turned Luciano into an international superstar. It was both a commercial and critical success, packed with timeless roots anthems like Messenger, Over the Hills, Carry Jah Load, and How Can You. These were all powerful, conscious songs that made Exterminator the actual engine room of the Rasta Renaissance, and they were entirely in line with Vybz's original vision. Vybz kept his eyes and ears wide open, always looking for fresh young talent who shared his vision for conscious reggae music. One of the rising stars he discovered was an 18-year-old Singjay named Miguel Collins, better known as Sizzla. Sizzla had been introduced to Dean Frazier by his longtime mentor and producer, Homer Harris. That introduction led to an audition with Vybz Kartel. Right away, Vybz saw Sizzla's raw talent and potential and brought him into the Exterminator camp. Vybz was also impressed by the young artist's fierce Rastafarian beliefs and took a special liking to him. He even paired Sizzla with Luciano, treating him like a kind of protege. Luciano welcomed the younger artist with open arms and took him along on his blazing tour of Europe and North America in 1996. That tour was organized to promote Luciano's Messenger album, and Sizzla was the opening act at every show. The tour provided Sizzla with valuable experience and massive exposure, both of which would significantly boost his career just a short time later. By that point, Sizzla had been with Exterminator for more than a year. He had already recorded several tracks, but they didn't make much of an impact at first. However, by early 1997, things changed. He pulled those tracks together and released his debut album, Praise Ye Jah, which quickly became a massive hit. That same year, in September, he followed up with Black Woman and Child, another powerful album that made waves both critically and commercially. Just like that, Exterminator had two bona fide superstars on its hands, Luciano and Sizzla. But as Sizzla's star rose quickly, people also began to notice a change in his behavior. There were whispers that his attitude had shifted, and that he was moving away from the strictly righteous, spiritual image that had defined him early on. This change would eventually put him on a direct collision course with Luciano, the senior artist and label leader he had once looked up to. It all started when Luciano took issue with some of Sizzla's lyrics in a track called "Smoke the Herb." One day, Luciano pulled the young artist aside to offer him some advice. He told Sizzla straight up that the song had too much profanity, which wasn't right for a Rasta. Luciano also said it reflected poorly on what Fadis Burrell was trying to build at Exterminator. But instead of taking the advice, Sizzla got offended and basically threw Luciano's words back in his face. After that, Sizzla reportedly held a grudge against Luciano and didn't try to hide it. He started putting more aggressive and controversial topics into his music. When Luciano couldn't take it anymore, he went to see Fadis to talk about Sizzla's attitude and what he called slack tendencies. But Fadis told Luciano to overlook it, saying it was just youthful energy. Luciano asked Fadis to have a serious talk with Sizzla, but the producer just brushed it off again. By 1998, Exterminator had added a few more young artists to the roster, including Turbulence, Teflon, and dancehall artist Jesse Gender. Luciano later said Jesse Gender was a bad influence on Sizzla and was even stirring up trouble among the new artists against him. When Jesse Gender first joined the label, he always dressed like a gangster. Luciano tried to advise him to adopt a more roots and culture-friendly image, but Jesse Gender didn't take the advice well and got angry. Luciano felt like the young artists were slowly destroying the spiritual foundation he and Fadis, along with Dean Frazier, were trying to build. He went back to Fadis again to ask him to talk to Sizzla. By that time, Sizzla was not just a superstar, but also enjoyed a close, almost father-son relationship with Fadis. And to Luciano's frustration, Fadis once again ignored his concerns. At this point, Luciano felt totally betrayed. Right then and there, he decided to leave the label. Interestingly, Luciano hadn't released any new albums since Messenger came out 2 years earlier. Around the same time, Sizzla's career was really taking off. After releasing the outstanding Sweep Over My Soul album in 1999, Luciano parted ways with Exterminator. His decision left Fadis completely shocked. Luciano said the whole vibe and atmosphere of the label had changed. It was nothing like what Fadis had told him he was building 6 years earlier, an accurate Rasta movement based on brotherhood and powered by music. Even though Luciano left the label, he still kept a good relationship with Fadis until the producer passed away in 2011. Now, it has been more than 2 decades since then, and both Luciano and Sizzla have become legends in reggae music. However, their relationship still doesn't seem very warm. At the 2018 edition of Rebel Salute, Luciano was on stage when Sizzla reportedly got the selector to switch the rhythm during Luciano's performance, trying to throw him off balance. Luciano discussed this in an interview after the show, sharing how disappointed he felt. He said both of them would always be part of the Exterminator family. Number 5. Vybz Kartel. Sizzla recently withdrew from the One Caribbean Music Festival in Trinidad, sparking serious controversy on social media. When Sizzla decided to speak up, he firmly denied the promoter's claim that he asked for the same performance fee as fellow artist Vybz Kartel. Using his birth name, Miguel Collins, Sizzla released a detailed statement. He called the accusation a blatant lie and made it clear that he never asked for Kartel's fee. According to Sizzla, he simply reminded the promoter about the 50% down payment that was initially agreed to in the contract. He explained what happened during a meeting with the promoter. When the promoter still didn't offer to pay us the 50% of our original contractual amount, Sizzla said, I suggested he pay us the 50% he was going to pay the artist who was to headline the show and didn't appear, and I would headline the show. Sizzla also shared that he had already started preparing for the performance, despite having only received 10% of the agreed-upon fee. That amount was way below the required 50%. He and his team waited in a hotel room for a follow-up meeting with the promoter, but no one ever showed up. Number 4. Conroy Smith. In an uploaded video, Conroy Smith describes Sizzla as the filth of reggae. Reflecting on his upbringing, he noted that respect and manners, such as thank you, please, excuse me, and good morning, were a regular part of life, values he sees missing in today's generation. He criticized the idea of giving the youth complete control without guidance, saying, "How you run things. Where do, if you get a baby, a car for drive? Why go do it? No chaos." To him, the lack of discipline in music has led to its decline. He called out Sizzla and some artists for promoting violence and disrespect in their lyrics, asking, "Which part intelligence when come you come and talk about light up the fire, burn down, row?" He stressed the importance of respecting elders and maintaining family and cultural values, saying, "Back in my time, love was there. Where's the love? It's division and violence and gun and murdering." He urged the industry to invest in schools, hospitals, and factories for the benefit of the poor, rather than spending music money on weapons. Conroy also defended his own legacy, especially his song Dangerous, urging listeners to revisit the lyrics. "When the sun come and the rain come, fall, I'm dangerous. Dangerous in God who I put my trust. Musically dangerous. I don't mention anything about thumping in your face or shooting you with a gun." For Conroy, dangerous means musical power, not violence. He closed with a message of unity and transformation. Change to love. I am dangerous, musically dangerous. Number 3, Spice, Grace Hamilton. Foota Hype has long positioned himself as a guardian of traditional dancehall values, and one moment that lit up the scene was when he publicly backed Sizzla for denouncing homosexuality, especially after Sizzla's mic was cut at a Jamaican government event for making anti-gay remarks. Foota jumped online immediately, calling Sizzla a real Rasta, and defending him as someone standing firm against what Foota sees as cultural infiltration and moral breakdown. Apparently, it was a shot at artists like Spice, who openly collaborated with and embraced the LGBTQ+ community, most notably with her headline, "Grabbing Performance Alongside Dwayne Wade's Daughter Zaya," and her outspoken allyship. Initially, Foot Hype supported Spice's rise, but over time, the relationship soured. He and Spice have had a rocky relationship in the dancehall scene, filled with public fallouts, emotional live videos, and back-and-forth interviews. Foota has often clashed with Spice over what he sees as a betrayal of dancehall's roots, while she responds with a message of inclusivity, evolution, and female empowerment. Number 2, Beenie Man. Beenie Man, known for his flashy style, party anthems, and slack lyrics, stood in contrast to Sizzla's deep-rooted Rastafarian beliefs and righteous message. In the early 2000s, Sizzla started calling out artists he felt were leading the youth astray, and many took that as a shot at Beenie Man. He'd make bold statements on stage about artists being unfit to represent the culture, and fans noticed the tension. Beenie Man, never one to back down, threw jabs back in interviews and on tracks, brushing off Sizzla's criticisms. The clash wasn't full-blown, but it was clear that they didn't rate each other's approach. Sizzla stood for spiritual fire and upliftment, while Beenie thrived on entertainment and raw dancehall energy. They weren't enemies in the streets, but musically and ideologically, they were on opposite sides of the battlefield, and that gap never really closed. Number 1, Capleton. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Sizzla and Capleton were seen as brothers in fire, standing alongside Anthony B as the fiery trio of conscious reggae. They shared stages, chanted righteous lyrics, and brought spiritual energy to the dancehall scene, all while flying the flag of the Bobo Ashanti faith. However, over time, cracks began to appear. Some say egos got in the way, especially as Sizzla's star rose fast and his following exploded. There were whispers that Capleton, already known as King Shango, wasn't too pleased with the way Sizzla's camp pushed its own dominance. Furthermore, their messages began to drift apart. Capleton kept things strictly spiritual, while Sizzla began mixing conscious lyrics with gun talk, flashy lifestyle, and more hardcore dancehall vibes. Fans started picking up on cryptic jabs during live shows, with both artists throwing subtle shade about false prophets or ones who used to chant fire. They stopped performing together, collaborations ended, and their camps, Judgment Yard and David House, no longer moved as one. Although no direct clash ever occurred, the silence between them has been deafening. They haven't reunited or shared a stage in years. Other controversies surrounding Sizzla. Sizzla has long been at the center of controversy over anti-gay lyrics, mostly tied to a few songs he released between 2000 and 2005. The backlash began in the early 2000s and led to many of his concerts being canceled, along with intense criticism from LGBTQ rights groups. In 2007, Sizzla and several other reggae artists signed the Reggae Compassionate Act. This agreement was meant to reject homophobia and remove any lyrics that promote violence against gay people. However, even after signing, Sizzla continued to face waves of protests and more canceled shows across Europe and the United States well into the following decade. In a 2012 press release, Sizzla described the cancellations as censorship designed to create maximum economic damage for everyone involved in the tour and the reggae industry at large. He also questioned why major hip-hop and pop artists weren't being targeted, even though some of them had made clear stances against these same issues. His statement pointed to a broader misunderstanding by the international community about Rastafari beliefs, which traditionally reject homosexuality in the same way they reject violence. He also argued that critics often misinterpret the metaphoric and allegorical expression in his Jamaican patois lyrics, which adds to the ongoing criticism of his music. Likewise, Sizzla's U.S. work visa was first revoked in 2008, and many people believed it had to do with the controversy over his song lyrics. In 2016, the visa was reinstated but later revoked again. That same year, he was granted a 3-year work permit and a 5-year visitor's visa. However, in 2019, his work visa was revoked once more. According to a post on his Instagram, Sizzla said part of the reason for the visa issues was a bad police record connected to an old marijuana charge. In 2024, his US visa was reinstated. What do you think about Sizzla's picks? Were you surprised? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more celebrity gist. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.